And good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Mel Sanders' Friends here on the Central Valley Talk. My name is Mel Sanders, along with Cato, and we're here today to just kind of have a little conversation with the folks in our community about some things that, some of the things we touched on the last time we were here regarding education and particularly special ed. And then we're going to talk about a few other things afterwards. Paula's not with us tonight. She has another engagement. You know, when you get to be an important board member in a small community, everybody pulls on your coattails and wants you to participate in something that they're doing. So hopefully we'll hear next week from her what her Thursday night was like the previous week. But going back to what we had a conversation about last week, last time we were here, Mr. Cato, we talked about special ed and some of the problems in terms of communication with people who are not familiar with the school system and how that function works. And you had personal knowledge of how that process works because you had a young man that was a part of that. And just kind of quickly go back over some of the things that we talked about in terms of some of the challenges you had when you first got involved with the system.
Well, first, my son is considered special ed. He has what's called Fragile X. Fragile X is the X chromosome, and that they kind of lump everything with special ed up under autism, which I don't really like because you have the extreme from one edge to the other as far as what is autism and how it falls up under that category. But as I say, he does have a learning disability. He is teachable, learnable. As a matter of fact, they call him a tweener, like in between, a tweener, because he's teachable, he's learnable, he's mild-mannered. He doesn't, become defiant or angry or violent or anything that they have with a lot of special ed kids. That just once again falls up under autism. So, you have that spectrum of it to where you have to deal with it, and a lot of times that dictates attitude from administration who you're dealing with, because depending on what that say child, in most cases they can be an adult, but because whatever issues they have is going to be with them for the rest of their life. But they, depending on what the history is, dictates a lot of what they may or may not recommend. My biggest thing that I found is that administration is scared to identify your child's needs. They want you to tell them what he needs as the parent. Now, it's one thing to ask me, what do I want as a parent for my child? It's another for me to tell you what he needs educational-wise in whatever setting that he's in.
Why do you think they're so reluctant to do the diagnostic part and tell you what they need as opposed to them asking you?
So they're not wrong. They don't want to be wrong. They don't want to tell you the wrong thing. They don't want to.
Yeah, but they're the professionals.
And that's why they want to be able to be right all the time. They're so scared that first what they'll do is they'll tell you, what do you want, Mr. Sanders? And then once they hear what you want, then they kind of know which way to guide you, as long as it really fits with what they wanted anyway.
Oh, so it's really their plan, but
It's
they
their
want
plan,
you
but
to bring it back to them so they can
Right.
say it was your plan.
They want to include
Or
you.
partners.
Right. They want to include you, and they want to, for one, they want to make you feel that you're included in that meeting that you're having. But it still doesn't come off that way, especially when you know your rights. See, that's the biggest problem is most parents with a special ed child does not know their rights. They don't know that when they go into a meeting, they're really in control. It's their child, regardless child. It's going to always be the child, no matter what age. So their child, who they're dealing with, you're in the meeting about, they're the ones that dictate what shall, what can, what they want, what they don't want. That's the parent.
So is that information written someplace?
It's law.
So explain, how do you get to that if you're not particularly paying attention to laws and regulations?
You
how
wouldn't
do you
know
how
that
would
unless you're told, and they're not going to tell you.
So how were you able to get that information?
They slipped
You paid
up.
somebody.
No, because I'm poor. I don't have nobody to pay nobody. No, they slipped up, and two, a friend of mine says I might have been born at night, but I wasn't born last night.
Okay.
So once it didn't take but really a minute to hear what they were saying to know there's a catch here. They're not telling me what the catch is, but there's clearly a catch here that they're not in charge. I'm in charge. And then once I found out that there is a law that says that they have to do what I say regarding my child, not them tell me where he needs to go, what classroom, what school. It's up to me, or what he's being taught. It's up to me as a parent, and they have to do that.
So wait a minute, say that again slowly, because you said there's a difference between what classroom, what time they go in the classroom, that kind of thing,
right,
as opposed to what you want the outcome to be. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
A lot of times they'll guide you somewhere where your child shouldn't be, where he's in a setting that is inappropriate for his behavior or his learning capabilities. It's just putting him somewhere. It's really what they're about. Is putting him somewhere. It's really not about putting him in the best place for him, unless you are one of those parents that speak up and are vocal and you're paying attention. Their job is, because once they get through with your child, there's another one coming. So their job is just to get him somewhere. It's not about, we don't want him going over to here because that's not the best setting for him. You will never hear that. They will say, what do you want? Now, here's some options. These are some places the settings that we have in mind. Well, that in mind is because, for one, they have space. Well, as a parent of a special ed child, I could care less about space on what you're telling me. I don't want 60 kids in a classroom, but also I don't want my son in a setting where everybody else is an invalid. They don't know their surroundings. They're sitting there. I hate to be blunt, but they're sitting there and they're drooling on each other or on themselves. They can't write. Of course, they can't read. They're immobile. I mean, they're in that wheelchair, and that's it. So why would I put my son in that setting where he's able to function, and you're able to talk to him and tell him what you want him to do, and he can follow instructions? That's my job as a parent to do that. But if I don't know it, how can I do it?
Folks, we're talking to one of our co-hosts, Mr. Cato, regarding special ed. He has some extraordinary knowledge in how the process works, gleaned from having a son that was in the education system, and he's sharing some of that with us tonight, because a lot of people have no idea, who have kids with special needs, and have no idea how it works and what their rights are.
Right.
And so I just wanted to interject that. Go back to what you were saying there.
It just comes down to that if you're not aware of something, you don't know the rules, then how do you play the game? And they're not going to tell you, not unless you're really observant or you've been informed prior to going into a meeting. Most people parents go into a meeting waiting to be told what is going to happen to their child. And so you just follow instructions. Oh, well, this must be right because they're the expert. But they're so leery about, for one, telling you what that child needs, as opposed to you telling them first what you want your child as far as being taught. That's one of the first things. Well, what do you want, Mr. Cato, for your son? Well, for one, life skills is for me at that time, but that was his biggest thing. Learning how to cross the street and learning how to read the street signs from yellow to green to red. Okay, or going into the store and handling money. because when he got to that age, once he gets past 21, those programs are still there for anybody. So you have to just
Whoa, slow
demand
down, back up again. So you're saying after the age of high school, for those young people who need that special help, it goes beyond
Yes, it does.
up to what age?
I can't say that. I don't know if there's a cutoff because it's special. It falls up under special needs. There's programs now. The programs prior to that would be the elementary school or preschool. Like my son started from daycare, and they were taken from daycare and went to a program, and then that was run by the city. And so from the city, that's their responsibility. And then once he got into junior high and then high school, all those programs continued because there was programs at the sites he was at the high school or the junior high. And then from there, you take it to there's outside programs, and there's a ton of them. But you have to do your research and find out if that's it, even if that program is right for your child. But once again, child can be an 80-year-old man, as long as his parents, as long as his parents are alive, he's still a child. Once his parents is gone, really, he's no longer a child. So I know I've seen them in their 50s. I know I have. And they do what they can for them. But it's just mostly the biggest problem is that the parents aren't informed. They don't know what their rights are. If you tell them, I want my son to go to Madeira, well, the law says that the child's supposed to go where you say, under the setting that you're requiring, not so that you just stick him in
a classroom with some other students that
and close the door.
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
Which is in the past. That's what they did with special ed.
So if you were giving advice